Mount Macedon is renowned for spectacular gardens, and Tugurium is a prime example of what can be created from a completely blank canvas. Renowned horticulturalist Stephen Ryan and botanic artist Craig Littlewood have worked meticulously for more than 25 years to slowly turn what was once a burnt-out block of land into a woodland paradise. Even in winter, this cool climate abode is full and vibrant with texture and striking form. The property was destroyed in the 1983 Ash Wednesday fires. Even the topsoil was gone. But today it's bursting with an assortment of cool climate plants and garden beds filled with agaves, perennials and hundreds of bulbs.
There was a few scruffy old gum trees that had been through the Ash Wednesday bushfires, some blackwood seedlings that had come up. There was no topsoil on the block, so there wasn't even a blackberry or a thistle or anything to show any fertility whatsoever. But in a sense at the time, I was a young guy with a nursery I was running and working in other people's gardens. I actually didn't have time to garden. In the initial years at least, certainly. So the fact that I had a block that you probably didn't have anything grow on anyway actually had a charm. and I had no intention of gardening. Craig came along, so there was two sets of hands. So no longer was I trapped with just me trying to run 5 different things at once. But also I used to have some trestle tables in the back shed, and some ladies from the local primary school auxiliary were coming down to borrow the trestle tables one day for some fete that was on at the school. And I happened to be having one of my very rare man flu days or something, and I was in the house and they didn't know I was there. And I heard these women get out of the car, and one of them turned to the other and said, "Oh, this is Stephen Ryan's place. I would have thought he'd have a garden." And so I think that galvanised me a little bit.
At least 10 massive truckloads of mulch is brought into the property annually to nurture the land and its plants.
It should be good exercise. I cannot see the point in a maintenance-free garden because they always look like it. And why not, in fact, go out and weed and barrow some mulch instead of going to the gym and pounding on some track thing?
A long-time resident of Macedon, Stephen claims that gardening feeds his soul. Stephen started working at his father's nursery at the age of 10, and many would recognise him from his time on ABC Television's Gardening Australia, which he hosted for 3 years. Tugurium featured prominently throughout his time in the show, which gave the average viewer access to a gardener's garden.
So this one we actually used on Gardening Australia. So we got a backhoe in and they dug out the hole from here, and we had the film crew here filming it while they did it. And then we put the big liner in it and we got the film crew up while we put the liner in. And then later on, after we got it all in place, I did a segment with planting around it with bog plants and what have you.
Plantings are unstructured, but as you wander along the garden paths, a sense of fun and quirkiness emanates. There's a chook and duck shed, dubbed Cluckingham Palace, whose residents are named after food dishes.
The older chooks are crispy, nugget and parmigiana, and I have a duck who's hiding inside who is called à l'orange, and her partner's there, he's Peking.
Stephen is particularly proud of his succulent garden, which he deliberately planted on the roof of a small shed.
I decided that I would put a succulent roof up. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing it on a 45-degree angle like this because it was quite hard work.
Even the name of the property suggests gardening shouldn't be taken too seriously.
The neighbour who'd seen my little house go up, who had the large brick veneer house, got it back through a gossipy connection we had, that it was a shame I'd built that little hovel. So my sister suggested actually to find out what a hovel was in Latin. We went to a local parish priest because you don't find words like that in the average botanical dictionary, and he found out that a hovel was Tugurium. So it's a hovel or mean dwelling in Latin.
Tugurium is open to the public on August 16 and 17 as part of Open Gardens Australia, with every step through this idyllic setting revealing inspiration to even the most avid gardener, including a rare pair of former perennial grasses, Miscanthus giganteus, which have taken on a red and yellow hue courtesy of a couple of paint cans. But it's not just the garden that will be on display. Visitors will have the chance to view some of the intricate botanic artwork created by Craig in a rustic studio that overlooks the garden.
It's the detail, I think, really gets people going. I think the fact that we live in a really urbanised world and that the small things of life are often disregarded, I think, that's what interests people, because it's the things you overlook that are sometimes really absolutely beautiful, and it's wonderful to have that natural history all around you.
I always say to people that gardening is not actually a destination, it's a journey. So nothing's ever finished, nothing's ever complete, nothing's perfect, and that's sort of part of gardening. So it's a journey.